Welcome to the Ascension of the Chessman Podcast. I'm your host, Mytty, and my guest host today, Joy Davies. Say hello, Joy.
Hi, it's an honor to be here.
Yes, and today's guest is a writer, non-guru, lineage spiritual teacher, way shower, divine love agent, provocateur, medical intuitive, and master energy healing facilitator. Ladies and gentlemen, hobbits and fairies, give a warm welcome to Marja West.
Hello. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Most definitely. So happy to have you, Marja. I really love your work and man, your story and just your general advice really hit close to home for me in so many ways. And I've already taken a lot from your work, just a little bit.
I love hearing that. Thank you. Thank you so much.
I took. Yeah. And I guess for those who aren't familiar, can you explain what it is that you do? And I guess what woke you up to realizing maybe there's more to this life than you were originally taught or thought?
Well, I would have to say that my awakening came actually rather early when I was probably a toddler, honestly, because I was just such a vibrant girl. I was like all over the place and I was very curious and I love nature. And my family system was just majorly fucked up. Forgive my French, but it was, I was raised by a psychopath, a very angry, upset young woman who didn't want me around, didn't want to have children, was hating on everything. And everything was a problem. And it was the complete antithesis of me. So, my earliest memories were really following her around going, why won't you love me, mommy? Why? Because she was so beautiful physically. And I would just, kind of like gaze up at her and she was not having me at all. It was pushing me away. So any kind of excitement or exuberance about being out in nature or seeing the blue sky would turn into a major catastrophe shit show of reprimands, a lot of physical abuse, sex abuse, incest, the whole 9 yards. And I had to pretend that I was a fairy to protect myself because other than the nanny that I had for a brief time, there was nobody advocating for me. So I was in big trouble. And that was when I realized, there's really something off about the situation, because then I had a best friend who I would escape to their house and I would see this contrasting experience of a family that actually liked each other, that were respectful, that were loving and kind and encouraging of each other. And they were having conversations at the dinner table. They were engaging me, including me in things. And I'm like, wow, what happened? What lotto ticket did I just not get? So it started there. And I think because of the abuse, it really set me up to just have this very steadfast kind of way of being where it's like, no, I don't accept this. But then you learn not to push up against stuff. And because it was always worse for me. So if I would mouth off, it was worse for me if I didn't comply. So I did this sort of silent rebellion and just plotted. I plotted my egress from that family system, and I was able to get out pretty young. So, but I was ballsy. I realized I can't rely on these people. I have to figure it out. I have to figure out, okay, well, what do I need to do? So I learned a lot of skills. I learned a lot of skills where I could either make money through doing my music, through teaching martial arts, through dancing, whatever. So I did some jobs that I'm not very proud of, but at the same time, it was the 70s then. I didn't have much of a choice. It was either that or get married to some dude that was going to like boss me around. And I wasn't going to have that either. So it's like you try to figure out, well, how is this going to work? And what I started doing is I started meeting a lot of men and a lot of women who were going through similar abuses. And so I think in the back of my mind, it's like, okay, I think I have figured some of this out, and I need to help people. I need to I'm a strong advocate for children. So I became a stepmom, a sort of surrogate stepmom, very, very early on. And so for me, when I see abuses of children or women or just human beings in general, animals, I go off. I'm not that way so much anymore because I've learned, it's an extension of pushing up against the shit you don't like. You're going to get wrecked. And so I've gotten my shit wrecked quite a number of times over the years, more than a few times, where I've had everything that I've worked for wiped out, or have to start at ground zero again. And the last of which was 7 years ago, actually. That was the last time I got some major shit wrecked. And it was because I hadn't quite mastered the whole thing of, if you're going to do this work, you don't want to be in the crosshairs of the powers that want to be, the cabal. You don't.
Like that.
You don't want to do it, because then what happens? You irritate them. And what happens is that they have all the little flying monkeys in the various, new age, goddess entrepreneurs, even the truth and freedom movement. I mean, these echelons of society and on social media are filled with henchmen who will take you out and say, I love you right to your face. And you won't even know what hit you until you realize, shit, I've gotten robbed. And that's what ended up happening to me. So, anyways, I know I just kind of like meandered all over the place. So that's kind of how it started. That's kind of how it started. And when I was in my 20s, around the time when I really started questioning what I was doing, because when you're a stepmom and you're married, there's a certain level of responsibility where you can't just fuck off. And you can't just do your own thing and be selfish. Although I think nowadays a lot of parents are actually selfish, and they'll give one of these to their kids and have this baby the babysitter instead of participating. I started questioning things. I was doing things. I was selling insurance. Yikes. And by night, I was a punk rocker. So, and then I was taking care of kids. So I was confused. I was like, okay, there's really an inequity going on here. And I was kind of superwoman, doing everything, making everything happen. And I was honestly, other than my sort of obligations, I was very unhappy. And that's when I started like really concentrating on, okay, what is going to give me meaning? I know I have a purpose, and the kid, I mean, that's one thing, but there's something deeper going on here. And I started having these dreams about this healing modality that I realized I'm going to be the caretaker of this. It's not my work. It is the vehicle through which I'm going to be able to do this work. And I was at the time in some major therapy for my own complex PTSD, my own abuse work. I never had children of my own because I was terrified that I would be this monster to my own children. And there was no way I was going to set up for that. Although as a stepmom, I did pretty darn good. And so, sometimes I think about it now and I regret it. But, hey, when you're over 60, it's too late. It's too late. Don't even bother.
There's no time for regrets. No.
Exactly. So these dreams, I brought him to my therapist, and she's going, "You're getting downloaded," and I didn't know what the hell that meant. What do you mean downloaded? And so we started transcribing them, which became the trauma deactivation work that I've been working with since 1987.
Wow.
And it's so interesting because when you work with intention and you are asking questions, what will happen, as you both probably know for yourselves, is that the universe conspires to create the sort of chains of events that grow this and lift it up. And so that's what happened for me. Before I knew it, I started getting phone calls from random people going, "Look, I don't know why I'm connecting you with this person, but you're the right person for this." And before I knew it, I have this international practice, and I was on the down low. I didn't even have business cards until like 8 years later, because I was terrified. It's like, should I be doing this? Like, I don't know. So there was that sort of a push to do it, but then this kind of weird thing like, okay, well, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. What is this stuff? Well, this is coming through me based on my direct experience about what I had to do to like really deprogram myself. And not only that, it's not just about deprogramming and deactivating trauma or trauma-based mind control. You actually have to learn how to wield and mold reality and create your layer of the universe. Because if you can't, then you're just sound asleep and stupid and victimized like everybody else. And you're going to be chasing your tail. And so, so I just started sharing it, and I have Capricorn rising. So I'm just like systematizing everything. It's like, oh, let's make a list. Oh, let's make a mind map. So we're going to go here, and it's going to go here, here, here. And so I'm just really good at that kind of stuff. So I think back to it. I looked like a loon to my friends because they're all like going, "What the hell are you doing?" I quit my job. I'd had everything. I couldn't do any kind of job where I was either subordinate or I had to be involved in some shitstorm where it was obvious to me, this is out of alignment. I can't do it. And, and it's funny because all along the universe was telling me, "Girlfriend, you are virtually unemployable," because by the time I was 21, I'd been fired from at least 25 jobs.
Wow.
And not very nicely, because I would just get to a point and it's like, no, I can't do it. So a lot of it, I was, fired for insubordination, won't follow directions, can't take directions, will not do what she's required, whatever.
I love it. A rebel from a young age.
Yes.
I love the great relationship advice you were given, and just like not even most people knowing what they want, and learning to be your own best friend when you're single, and just finding the right partner, having that patience rather than just marrying some guy because he's got the corporate job where he can buy you the nice car and give you the good life. And I buy my own nice car. I bought my own nice car. So, right. I bought my own nice houses too. So, it's like you figure it out. But I think a lot of it too is just, it's trial and error. I fucked up a lot. I did some really just stupid things, or in hindsight are stupid. But at the same time, one of the things that I love to do, I love to seek the advantage in every fuck up. And it's amazing because there's always something there where you're like, okay, I get that. And then you're over it. You're just over it because you can't change it. You can change your relationship to things that you've messed up on and move on from there. But it's not easy. And certainly I've had these epiphanies where
something that I thought that I did really good in. It's like, oh, no. Yeah, I realized, wow, I was so out of integrity. I might get bitch slapped for that. So, I think about that kind of stuff, and it's like, and if I do get bitch slapped, I'll attribute it. It's like, okay, yeah, we came full circle there, So I do a lot of self-forgiveness.
Love that. Yeah. You talk a lot about just finding that balance of the divine feminine and masculine qualities within each of us. What are some things you've learned along your path of finding that balance?
Well, I think for me, for my generation as women, so I grew up in the sort of uprising of feminism, but there was something off about it. And I remember being in college, and I was in college very, very young. I was 16, and I remember and I went to a very liberal, very Marxist state university in California. Forgive me. Sorry. But I get to say it. I lived there for 36 years, and it's like, holy shit. Like, this is happening. Do people not get it?
Right.
And so for me as an immigrant, I have a diverse background, Eurasian background, where a lot of my kin were completely obliterated by communism. And the fact that they just sort of snuck it in is like, it just blows my mind. So when I was in college, I just remember there were a lot of these very middle-aged, middle of the road white women who were finding themselves in education and the indoctrination centers, right? Mm-hmm. And coming to me, because I'm petite, I was kind of pretty and just kind of like, and then telling me, oh, so sorry, you're just being so discriminated. It must be really hard for you being so small. And, and I'm like, whoa, what? Like, I did not relate to that. It's like, yes, I learned English. I happen to be really great at math and sciences. So back off. And then the whole thing about being this helpless, woman and I need feminism to be my side, and white men. I mean, already the whole thing about white men bad, men bad. They have penises that makes them rapists. It just, I'm like, no, this is bullshit. I saw right through it. But then, of course, by the time I was that age, 15, 16, I already read the Gulag Archipelago. So I was not interested in having this sort of cultural Marxist nonsense being rattled at me, shoved in my face, and trying to push these victim buttons, because it never happened to me. And so I was just kind of like, which made me all that more wary about what I witnessed when I was in college, that just hitting on the divide and conquer, the war between the sexes, okay? The liberation of women. These women were fucking angry. They were not empowered. They were blaming men. And yet, when it comes to the masculine and feminine energies, the energy of doing is actually your inner masculine. And so I started talking about this early on, and people were going, what the fuck is she talking about? Like, what? So at that point, from the 70s into the 80s and even early 90s, the divine feminine was a woman, and she was pretty much clad in Victoria's Secret. So, that's the divine feminine, this kind of sex kitten kind of thing. And then there was the complete antithesis of these so-called and empowered women who are these butch lesbians. And I've had girlfriends. I like hot butch lesbians. I don't have a problem with it. But when that becomes a sort of icon for the empowered woman, I draw the line. It's like, no, you're not getting it. You don't understand it. Okay. What we have to do, and this is what I had to do, because for me, leaving my family home at an early age, having to make my way and figure out how the world worked, I saw the discrepancies between men and women, the war of the sexes. So I armed myself. So I'm petite. What did I do? I went and got 3 black belts. Okay, that's one of the things that you do. You got to learn how to drop an opponent, man or woman, who's twice your size. But here's a caveat. If I fuck up the 5 moves that I need to make to take a man or woman down who's way bigger than me, I'm fucked.
Right.
I better know how to run and run away because, this isn't Hollywood where you've got some bimbessa in spiked 5-inch heels with perfect makeup and hair, tight clothing, render a jump spin kick, hit the guy in the face, take 5 punches to the face, and nothing's blowing up. I mean, it's absurd. So these are some of the things that I had to learn. I had to learn how to take care of myself. Take a punch. I'm in a public place. What am I doing? I am watching the doors. I need to know where all my ingress and egress points are. You know what I mean? And it's not that I'm paranoid. It's just smart to do because there are just so many nutty people.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to take care of yourself. So one of the things that I discovered especially when I was raising my stepkids, is that there was an anger in me that I noticed. And I knew a lot of women who were feeling the same way, and they were displacing that toward men. They were blaming men. Why? Because they were having to be in their masculine and do this, that, and the other thing because they were making bad choices in their partners. And one of the things that we need to understand energetically is if a woman is more masculine, she's going to attract a man that's more feminine. That's how it is. There has to be a polarization between the masculine and the feminine. And that is exactly what I was doing, which is why I attracted men who didn't have jobs, who couldn't take care of their children. And because I was so bent in my own trauma of being abused as a child, I went right to it. It was like a moth to a flame. I could not help myself because if I could be in charge, that was all the better because then I can save the children. Okay. But getting back to this anger, I felt it. It was getting more and more and more and more intense. And I tried to stuff it down by, buying stuff, being a good mom, being in my power and just being so exemplary in every project that I took on. But what is that? That's being in your masculine. Yeah. So I had an epiphany. It's like, why am I so tired? I'm just tired and I'm upset. And, I'm really girly. I'm bougie. I like designer clothes. I like nice cars. I like nice things. And I was getting more and more and more, like I noticed I was getting upset. And finally, I realized, I got to step back because I realized the dynamic that I was pushing where I was more in my masculine and less in my feminine was not just exhausting the feminine, but I was also emasculating my inner man where he couldn't do it right. He couldn't do it fast enough. It's like chopped up. And I realized, oh my God, I just emasculated my inner masculine. And that's when I really started doing the healing work of really understanding what it was that I was doing. Because, and so a lot of women resent child rearing, resent being a mother. And here's the thing, nurturing and motherhood, there's nothing feminine about it. It's actually masculine because what you're doing is you are taking energy from within you and directing it outwardly onto another person outside yourself or a cause outside yourself. And you're not taking care of yourself. You're not giving yourself downtime, so that's psyop. I think a lot of feminism is a psyop, honestly. It's like, let's be all that we can be. We're going to be angry, pissed off, bitchy women. I don't want to be that. I've been there.
That's what it
It's
seems
not
like it's
attractive.
advocating for. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not attractive. It's not attractive. And so once I started really unraveling that, I realized, okay, it was a game changer for me because I started attracting men and women who were really questioning that reality in terms of the relational dynamics between men and women. So men who are more in their feminine, we call them pussies. We call them wusses. Why? That's just crazy. There are some men and women who are naturally more in their masculine essence or their feminine essence. I don't think that's a crime, but you have to know what you're doing. And you can't expect to fulfill these traditional roles, quote unquote, and be able to get away with it, because you won't be able to get away with it. You won't have your shit straight. You have to understand what you are primarily. And for me, I run a lot of masculine energy, but I'm definitely feminine essence. I don't relate to being a man. I don't want to be a man. And, and I want to have a partner who's absolutely more masculine than me. Otherwise, it's not going to work. It isn't going to work. So, yeah. So I teach that with all my, so I work primarily with survivors of trafficking, and I teach them this. And it's funny how the overly aggressive sex kitten is supposed to be feminine. No, she is in her masculine. And she needs to either be okay with it, or she needs to come into her own balance. And for me, the synchronization of masculine and feminine is the same synchronization as right-left brain synchronization. Okay. You have to be adept at wielding the two of them at the same time. And sometimes we have to be more right brain than left brain, and vice versa. Sometimes we have to be in a doing mode and being in our masculine primarily, whether we're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. So just discovering that and really seeing through that divide and conquer within the matrix that's pushed by the cabal, pushed by what I call the powers that want to be. They want to destroy men and women so that we're just warring with each other, and they just get to sit back and watch it happen. They're enjoying it, and then we've got pop culture and the media. You've got, music and Hollywood. All of this is adulated. Psychodramatic, dysfunctional, codependent relationships. Woo! People line up to watch that shit. It's just not, it's not for me. I've had enough of it. We don't need that. That is not the way out.
Brilliantly said. And, I wanted to get into, just identifying those mother and father wounds from my childhood, and, getting to reconcile with the inner child underneath the shadow,
Yeah. Truly important work. I would have to say that unraveling all of the knots regarding our upbringing, and because our upbringing, and this is the thing, regardless of whether your parents were in your life or not, the download from inception, from your conception, you've got your mother and father lineages that are absolutely influencing whether you are conscious of not or not. And these are the sort of scripted roles that are within all human existence, trapped, enslaved in the matrix. And unless you unravel that, what I call tribal drama, tribal hell, or your relationship to the very first cult, that's what I call it. It's our first cult. Yeah. And, we learn our behaviors of what women are like, what men are like, what the feminine, what the masculine does, all of our judgments and criticisms and the sort of inclinations that we have. These are all automatically downloaded. And unless we somehow were one of the lucky ones whose parents actually conceived us consciously. And when I say consciously, that they actually did the great work, completed it, did all of their work to clear out all the dysfunction, exit the fucking matrix and enter into the true quantum field creation field universe and make a baby. I mean, I don't know that many people who've done that. I know some of them, and these are amazing people, you know, but I was not one of those people.
Me neither.
Yeah. And so we have to do that work. And that work is very, I can't stress enough the importance of that work.
Yeah.
And it's very, the trauma from that, the complex PTSD, because there's PTSD and then there's complex PTSD. And the way we bonded with our moms or dads, or the way we didn't bond with them. Mm-hmm. These are the templates through which we create relationships. We create, we mimic, we replicate that world in our own layer of the universe. So unless we do the great work and excavate all of that, and it is not pretty work, I'm still doing it. I'm still doing the work. I've done a lot of work on myself, but I am finally in a relationship with a man who's really my equal. And what's interesting thing about us, and we're both the same age, we're both going to be 63 soon. And so he's 49 days older than me, and we have the same bonding. We have the same relationship wounding, but we're not bonding. We're not trauma bonding on those similarities. We're actually endeavoring to hash it out. So one of the things that happened was, and this is a strange thing, but I'm going to be very candid about it because it was so wacky. So this was recently. It's been very, very hot here. And we had a nice time. We had happy hour and did all kinds of like really, really fun stuff that couples do. And something really, really triggered me. And, he's a big guy. He walks in front of me. I mean, there's only so much room. We couldn't walk side by side. And that shit triggered me. And so I don't know if you know a lot about complex PTSD, but one of the things is flashbacks. And I hadn't had a flashback like that probably in like 15 to 20 years. I was out of bounds. I didn't know what was going on, but I do remember sort of, kind of chasing after him. I called out for him to slow down, and there was a bunch of people. He didn't hear me, and I was gone. I was gone. And what it did, my consciousness receded. From the moment receded. I mean, I was not a 62-year-old conscious woman. I was not. I was pre-verbal. I didn't know it at that time. And what was funny is, you talk about divine providence, because that following few days, I was actually in a continuing education seminar training that I needed to do. And it was all about complex PTSD. It was all about flashbacks. And my guy, Christopher, and we had these conversations because I was in a bad place. I didn't know what was going on with me. And I'm pretty self-aware, but I could not pinpoint it. And it was very upsetting to him because I was distant. So we're both distant. We're both very, so flight, freeze, fun. We're both flighters. So we're just gone. That's what we do. That's what we do. So I go to my house, I do my training, and it's suddenly in the middle. And of course, who's in the hot seat? I'm in the hot seat. First off, it's like you. And I'm going, oh God, here it comes. And these experiences are very humbling because this is how it is. You get triggered and you're like, and I have tools. I'm trying to get myself out. I'm trying to exit the matrix. And I realize, nah, it ain't happening. It's not happening. I'm in so much pain. So the flashback was me just starting to walk, and my mother was going very, very fast. And I'm trying to get her attention. And she's not hearing me, or she hears me and she ignores me. And, I trip, I fall. And here's this intense thing. So this is a complex PTSD flashback that was actually happening in the middle of my date with my beloved. He did nothing wrong, but I was so out of it. So these are the things that we have to pay attention to, because it can happen just like that. And if you're not skilled, and particularly for me, I had a flashback in a long time, but I have a very, very harsh inner critic that has my mother's voice and is like, and it projects onto all my friends, all my beloveds, all my experiences. And if I'm not quick enough to catch it and wake myself up, I'm snoozing. And it's not a pleasant experience. So that's an example of something that happened to me recently, like in the last couple of weeks, where, we really had to work this through. And so my guy and I, so we set up these sort of signals with each other that when one of us is, kind of spiraling, that we grab each other's hands and say things like, "Come back to me, baby. Come back."
I like that.
Because that's what we need. That's what we need. We need that sort of coaxing. We need that sort of sweetness, a nice, safe place to land. And there's all kinds of other self-talk that you can do, where you say, okay, I'm flashing back. I'm safe, all these sort of self-soothing things. But that's important, and that's it's a very balanced, masculine, feminine way to hold space for you and to be able to be in that place of receptivity of what it is that you're going through with the flashbacks, with any kind of trauma trigger, and to be able to, just really hold the space and be very conscious and be very empathetic to what it is that you're going through, and being kind. Because a lot of us, when we have strong inner or outer critics, we have a tendency to bully our sensitivities. And that is not helpful, because it just causes you to retreat even more deeply when there is an opportunity there to move through it, in a very nice and loving way. So, anyways, I wanted to share that. Just so everybody knows, I don't have it all together. I'm just like everybody else, one foot in front of the other, and then seemingly 2-3 steps back, and so that dance of evolution, as it were.
So I grew up with a mother that was always rejecting me as well. And so I have an insecure attachment.
Aww.
And with all my plant medicine work that I've done, and then really truly going into recovery from alcoholism a year ago, all these memories are coming up. So it's like the layers of an onion.
Yes.
And now in you speaking about that, I recognize that I am having a flashback when I go into that flight.
Yes.
Or with me, it was fight.
Yes.
I love to fight, and so, because that anger bubbles over and it makes it all, everyone else's fault. I don't have to get to the core wound,
right?
The pain that I'm running from.
Right.
So now in thinking about it, when I get that tightness of breath and I go into that panic mode and curl into a little ball, there's obviously something that triggered me, that reminded me of that rejection.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So how did you begin working on the mother wound?
So what I noticed, first of all, I had a fantastic mentor who was very, she was not just great at really holding the space. She was great at really teaching about remothering. So remothering and refathering ourselves, and especially with the fight. I had to learn to fight back, and so I think a lot of that, especially with martial arts, learning to take a punch, a full punch and a full kick, and not lose your shit. And so part of your process, your journey, is getting to that really tender part of really dealing with the anger, and rather than having it being out there, going inside and really directing the anger at your mother, because she's really the culprit. She's the target. She's the one that actually deserves it. And to be in that place where you can actually own the anger toward her, and also be able to really grieve that betrayal, the sense of loss, and to stay and not go into flight and not go into freeze, but to just actually be there in the body and tune into that. One of the things that I did, because I was so in that place where I would just get overwhelmed by feelings. I'm a very physical person. So me wanting to run, or me, just wanting to work the bag or something, or go shooting, it's like those were helpful, but they were not what they were doing. They were like keeping me apart from really getting into feeling. And feeling is the really, that's a lot of really good work to do, because it's free. It requires you to be very tuned in to not just your emotional countenance, but your thought quality of what's in your mind, feeling into the body, and allowing your thought quality, your emotional countenance, your whatever's going on in your body physically, and just being there with it, and kind of cradling all of it like a baby, and just being in that place of soothing and not fixing it, not having to process it, just to like be there and stay there. And that was hard. It's hard. It's just hard work, because, and especially for somebody like me, I'm very process oriented. So it's like, I get a journal out, I'm going to do this. And this is not that. This is like really just being there and having compassion, being gentle, being tender with all those parts. And I think also too, what was very powerful in conjunction with that was being able to verbally vent, no holds barred. And, so I was very lucky to have Pearl be able to hold that space. And when she wasn't in that space, I set a tape recorder and I just fucking went off. I went off. I swore, I screamed, I did all kinds of stuff. And I literally would lose my voice because I was so enriched, and it needed to get out, because all that energy is like stuck. It's just stuck in our cells, our nervous system, our tissues, and it's got to be able to vent. So all those things in conjunction, to tuning into the anger, being able to vent, being able to just feel and grieve, so I did a lot of crying. Crying is like, it's the really the soul food of the heart for me. Because, when we have that kind of mother rejection, it changes the fabric of our universe, because our mothers are, well, first of all, they are our first interface with the divine feminine. And when she's rejecting, she's rejecting her own divine feminine. And so you're being doubly wounded, where you're not receiving the motherly love, the connection, the bonding, and is not being completed. And then when she rejects, it's like it's so for me, I think that's one of the most egregious abuses that humanity can ever do to their own, is that deep rejection. Because as a child and pre-verbal, we're innocent. We're totally helpless to this woman. And, and if she's not clean, or she has no filters or no tools, we're going to get splattered and inundated with her self-hate, all of that. So it's very complex, just the unraveling of it. And it sounds like, you really do have a pretty good overall view on, really what you're dealing with, and to be tender, sweetheart,
Yeah. Because I rejected myself then that conditioning
Absolutely.
just became internal.
Yes.
And I just continued to abuse myself. And it was always her voice in the back of my head.
Yeah.
So recognizing it, being the observer and watching that's a trip within a trip.
Yeah,
right
no,
there.
it really is. It really is a trip. It
Yeah.
really is a trip.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's powerful.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. I guess just learning how to utilize your triggers for your own growth.
Yes.
And main topics of hypnosis. This was something you touched on. And if you could kind of get into that a bit.
Well, you mean as far as the Matrix hypnotizing everybody?
I think this was in regards to the trauma work.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, but yeah, either or. I mean, they're both
synonymous.
Yeah.
So I like the whole. Oh boy, English is so strange. I'm like getting that's not the right word. I like the whole process of utilizing our triggers, whether they're emotional, physical, mental, some kind of psychic thing, as an invitation to wake up and re-own our attention. Because we've been inundated with at least I was, with new age bullshit. Oh, once you're awake, everything is all lined up and everything is like easy. I mean, I fell for that shit. I really did. I was so disillusioned. I'm like, what is going on? And I realized that, they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, because what is it to be spiritually awake? It's about owning your attention. And when you're in the Matrix, you're being hijacked. Your attention, your consciousness is being hijacked by the outer screen. What you see in front of you, whether it's on the boob tube or on video, or, just walking down the street and witnessing some kind of injustice, or watching your favorite TV show, or the shit that goes on in your head based on what you're judging out here, or based on what you're tripping out on. Okay. We have 3 attention centers, and the middle one is our awakened state. This is it. And this is how you exit the Matrix, is you're here, where you can witness what's going on out there and what's going on in here, and you can keep your center and I'll lose your shit no matter what. That's what it is. And so, in the Matrix, whether it's trauma, whether it's a distraction, whether it's whatever flavor has your attention, I always say to people, who owns your attention? Do you own it, or does the Matrix own it? Because the only way we're going to move out of Matrix enslavement is by owning our attention, and people want to make it fancy. There's nothing fancy about it. And it's an ongoing spiritual practice, moment to moment to moment. I snooze all the time,
Yeah.
And people, but once you're awake, you're going to be awake forever. No, that's not true. It's not realistic. There's too many things in the matrix to distract us, past, present, future. CNN, Fox News, Alex Jones. I mean, all of it. I mean, it's just fucking nonsense, most of it.
Right.
So we have to choose. We have to choose where our focus is. And from the focus, the center screen, that's where we can compose reality.
Right.
And that's where we, really activate our true creative natures, because we're each here, in my opinion, to move formless into form in our own special way. And in doing that, we are creating, respectively, our respective layers of our universe.
100%.
Like all of us right now, we are having an intersection of our respective universes having this conversation.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a melding of my universe, your universe, and we just created this expanded place. It's really cool. It's really fucking cool.
Fucking amazing. This has been an amazing conversation, Marja. I'm so thankful to have you on my show.
It's my pleasure.
Most definitely. I just wanted to ask you, with all the chaos going on in the world, it can get a little heady and can get dark and doomy and gloomy. So do you have any spiritual practices on a daily basis that you kind of use to kind of help you stay grounded?
I do. First of all, I don't watch television. I have a very formulaic is not the right word. It's I'm very disciplined in terms of what I take in terms of information. So I don't go to the news. I don't do that. My partner, in his house, he has Siri and he's got Alexa talking to him, man. I don't have any of that shit in my house. It's his house. He can do whatever he wants, And so I have humor. So I'm like, why, thank you, Alexa. Thank you, Siri. So I'm just very, very playful, whatever. Okay. So I have a filter where I just don't engage in that stuff. And on Facebook, I don't scroll. I have a set of people that I track. I always tell people, you want to get my attention, you either have to text me or email me, because I've got thousands of private messages. I'll never look at them. Because I can't go there. I feel actually woozy when I start doing that kind of stuff. So I'm off of that. But I do have to interact with a lot of different realities, and a lot of different people. I have students, I have clients, I love doing this kind of work with the both of you, because this is the kind of work that is really going to share like real deal tools and solutions that you can put into practice right away, and not have to fucking sign up for your entire lifetime and have a credit card ready for it. It's like, I can't take that. It's like, wow, really? And most of these people don't even know what the fuck they're talking about. They're basically stealing somebody else's work, and they've somehow packaged it really bizarrely, So what I like to do, and especially I have, for the most part, like eliminated a lot of personal or personal like psychodramas. One of the things that I recommend everybody do is you do a purge of your inner circles, your outer circles, your social media circles, your social circles. You just start excluding all the energy vampire suckers, and there's lots of them. Okay. One of the things that I've noticed, say, over the last 20 years, I mean, I have been online. My business has been online since 2003. I got my 23rd iteration of a website. My first website was back in 1994.
Wow.
So I've had like all the stuff, and I've noticed this increase, this exponential explosion of narcissists, sociopaths, and psychopaths. For whatever reason, it just seems to breed these contemptuous energy suckers who pretend to be your friends, you know? So I suggest that if anything is off in any of your relations, you should like really pay attention to that and get them out of your life. So I recommend that. I also recommend that we, really get clear on what it is that we want to create in our layer of the universe. That is, who do you want to be? What kinds of people do you want in your life? What kinds of experiences? What kind of daily thing are you into? Like, I have a whole morning routine that I like to do. I'm out when I'm not with my guy. I'm out. I wake up very, very early. I'm up by 4:35. I have lots of things that I want to do. And, I have my yoga practice, my martial arts practice. I hike early in the morning when the sun is coming up. It's beautiful. I'm at 7,000 feet. Who wouldn't want to do it? And so I have all these things. So if we can like connect to the kind of setting the tone for the day through a ritual, and it doesn't have to be anything fancy. It's just all these self-care things, practices where you get to be more mindful about who you are, more self-appreciation, more appreciation of people that you connect to. I have this mantra that I say to myself, isn't that wonderful? Isn't it marvelous? I just fucking love that word, marvelous. It's like, that's such a cool word. So everything, and then when it's less than stellar, I do a thing, and it's a journaling exercise. I do a thing called revision. And I don't know if you are familiar with the work of Neville Goddard, but he wrote a bunch of books in the 30s and 40s about materialization, manifestation. He was kind of like those law of attraction meets reality creation meets reality transurfing, and just put forth so many practical ideas that if you want to create reality, you actually have to have the thoughts that would maintain that reality, have the emotional countenance of living that reality, and have the physical practices of being in that reality. So when things happen, they go awry, I do revision. So I'll get my journal out. How would I prefer this to happen? And what it does is that it sets the tone, and it is a way where, a lot of people say, yeah, when I lose 20 pounds, after I lose 20 pounds, I'm going to do this and this and this. No. You have to intend that you are doing this, and you actually have to see yourself doing it, because when it comes to mindset work, your mind doesn't know the difference between whether you're imagining it or whether you're actually doing it. That's how powerful our minds are. And so in many ways, the quantum field creation field universe is the universe of mind. And so when you have what I call heart, mind, body, soul coordination, you're thinking it, you're feeling it, you're doing it, you're being it. And it's all happening. Like, it's been such a game changer for my life where, and a lot of the times when it doesn't happen, it's usually because something better is happening. And that something better usually happens when I least expect it. So I've done videos on revision. I've done videos on, reverse engineering reality, which is actually quite good, because that's the next frontier to me. It's not just about deactivating trauma and healing trauma. clearing trauma. It's really about getting that heart, mind, body, soul coordination so that you can actually mold and wield reality and create your layer of the universe. That is it. That is the next frontier beyond our traumas. And then we can use our PTSDs as triggers to wake ourselves up and create the universe that we want to create, rather than, focusing on the shit show of seven ninths, the COVID. It's like, stop. I can't talk about it anymore. 100%. It's funny. Somebody recently, we'd like to get your head on COVID. I'm like, no, I'm done talking about it, man. I don't want to talk about it anymore. Stop.
It doesn't exist in my reality anymore. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. And recently I've been on some Zoom panel calls where there are people on the panel wearing a fucking mask.
Oh, God. I don't understand it.
I can't take it because it takes all of my energy to be nice and not raise my hand and fucking go off.
Right.
No. and so that's the part of me that wants to sit there and push up against the matrix stupid. It's like, no, don't do it. Step away from the vehicle, move along, focus on what I want to create. Don't pay attention, laugh, and then move on,
Beautiful. Well, I want to thank you all for listening out there. Thank you again, Marja. It's been a beautiful conversation.
You're very welcome.
I'd love to have you back on anytime.
Yeah, anytime. Let me know.
Yeah, we're kind of in a rush today, but I just wanted to take 1 second to give you an opportunity to tell the listeners where they can find you. And yeah, we'll end it after that.
So my YouTube channel is LoveTruth&Beauty. And my website is LoveTruth&Beauty.com. And I've got a lot of free stuff, my YouTube channel, all the reality creation stuff. I've got playlists. They're all there for free, and it's all DIY how-to stuff because I want everybody to thrive. I want everybody to thrive, kids. You're here to thrive. You're here to have fun. You're here to, rock your world, rock your reality.
Fuck yeah. Well, thank you again all for listening. I hope you all found a moment of presence throughout this conversation. I hope you gained something from it. I send you all peace and love, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of the week. Peace.